Episode 6, Building Confidence and Self-Esteem. Welcome back, friends. I'm Barb Schnarr, Giatti, and I'm glad you're here. Every week, we come together to grow and glow, learning to live more fully, more consciously, as we glow from the inside out. This is week 6 of 12 of the Giatti Glow Life Coach series. If you're following along in my 12-week life coaching book, that's fantastic. If you don't have the book, that's absolutely fine, but you will want something to write with and write on. If you'd like to get the book, just go to the About section of Giatti Glow where you found this podcast, and there will be a link to my 12 life coach sessions for coaches and individuals book on Amazon. Or you can go to Amazon and search for Schnarr Coach. That's Schnarr Coach. Schnarr is my maiden name, and that's what I used for these books. Before we get started, I have some big news. I've decided which wellness coaching discipline we're going to tackle after we finish these life coaching episodes at the end of December. Are you ready? After we finish 12 weeks of life coaching, we're going to move on to 12 weeks of Ikigai. If you're not familiar with Ikigai, it's a Japanese concept that translates loosely to a reason for being. And that's reason for being is found at the intersection of what you love, what you are good at, what the world needs, and what you can be paid for. This philosophy is kind of like helping you achieve a sense of purpose, fulfillment, and a happier, longer life. It's not necessarily about grand ambitions, but something that can be a simple, everyday source of happiness. And I will start that 12 weeks of Ikigai coaching on January 1st, 2026. My Ikigai coaching book is also available on Amazon if you want to get a head start. You can follow me on TikTok, Threads, Insta, or FB to keep up with all the new info. My handle on all of them is the Life Coach Store. I also post daily motivations, and it's pretty cool. Yay! Okay, but let's get back to what we're here for today. In this episode, we're diving into one of the most transformative topics of all, self-esteem and confidence. Now, these are words we hear all the time, right? Be confident, love yourself, believe in your worth. And sometimes those phrases are easy to say, but hard to live. Because self-esteem isn't about pretending you've got it all together. It's about knowing your value, even when life gets messy. So today, we'll unpack what self-esteem really means, where confidence truly comes from, and how to rebuild both from the inside out. Part 1, understanding what self-esteem really is. Let's start with something that surprises a lot of people. Self-esteem isn't about believing you're better than anyone else. It's not arrogance or ego or inflated confidence. True self-esteem is simply the deep, unshakable belief that you belong here, exactly as you are. It's knowing in your bones that you are worthy of love, respect, and good things. And not just because you've achieved certain status, it's not because you've checked off a list of accomplishments. It's simply because you exist. When you have healthy self-esteem, your sense of worth doesn't rise and fall with the day's events. You can make a mistake without calling yourself a failure and spiraling. You can receive feedback without collapsing into shame. You can look in the mirror and see a human being who is still learning, still growing, still deserving, and even in those moments you don't feel like your best. But when your self-esteem is shaky, it's a whole different story. The tiniest criticism can suddenly feel enormous. Someone's silence can feel like rejection. You might find yourself scrolling through social media, comparing your behind-the-scenes life with someone else's highlight reel, and coming up short. Or maybe you chase approval at work, in relationships, even from strangers, because somewhere deep down, you've tied your worth to how much others validate you. But that kind of stuff never lasts. Approvals fade, compliments fade, the applause dies down. That's the trap of conditional self-worth, when your sense of value depends on circumstances outside of your own control. It's like building a house on sand. Every wave of criticism, every missed opportunity, every imperfect day washes away at that foundation, and you have to start all over again. Self-esteem isn't fixed. It's not something you either have or don't have. It's something you can build and rebuild over time. Think of it like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. The more you practice speaking kindly to yourself, the more natural it becomes. The more you catch those moments of self-doubt and respond with compassion instead of judgment, the more resilient you become. Rebuilding self-esteem takes patience, gentleness, and consistency. It's not about faking positivity or repeating empty affirmations until you believe them. It's about slowly reteaching your mind and heart that you are not the sum of your mistakes, that you have always been enough, and that you don't need to earn your right to take up space in this world. It's about remembering that everyone struggles with this. Every person you've ever admired, every confident friend or successful person you've looked up to has questioned their worth at some point. You are not broken or behind for feeling this way. You are simply human. The journey towards self-esteem isn't about perfection. It's about acceptance. It's about learning how to stand on your own side, even on the hard days. Part 2, building true confidence. If self-esteem is the quiet belief that you're worthy, then confidence is how that belief shows up in the world. It's the way you walk into a room. It's the way you speak up when your voice trembles. It's the way you try something new, even though you might fail. Confidence isn't about being fearless. It's about feeling the fear and doing it anyway. It's about trusting that even if things don't go perfectly, you will be okay. True confidence comes from experience, from taking small steps and collecting evidence that you can handle life as it comes. It's not always about succeeding. It's about learning that you can recover, adapt, and grow. Think of it this way. Every time you step outside your comfort zone, you stretch what is possible for you. The first time you do something unfamiliar, maybe speaking up in a meeting or introducing yourself to someone new, it can feel terrifying, right? But then you do it anyway. And you realize, okay, the world didn't collapse. You survived. And even if it didn't go perfectly, you learned something. That's confidence in motion. Confidence doesn't mean you'll never feel doubt again. It just means the doubt no longer stops you. You move from I can't to I'll try. From what if I fail to what if I learn something? And that internal dialogue changes the way you live your life. A lot of people think confidence comes from external success, promotions, praise, money, blah, blah, blah. Those things boost your mood, but not your confidence. Because if your confidence depends on results, then it's fragile. It disappears the moment things don't go your way. Real confidence comes from self-trust, knowing that you can depend on yourself no matter what happens. You don't have to wait until you feel ready. You don't have to wait until the fear goes away. Confidence is something you build through action. You start before you feel prepared. You begin small, take one step, then another. And confidence grows fastest when you keep promises to yourself. When you say, I'm going to do this, and then you actually do this. If you do it enough, your brain starts to believe you. It doesn't matter how small the promise is, waking up on time, drinking more water, going for a short walk. Each act of follow-through becomes proof. I can trust myself. And when you trust yourself, you stop needing everyone else's approval. You stop waiting for permission to live boldly. You stop comparing your chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 10. At the end of the day, confidence isn't about having all the answers. It's about being okay with not having them yet. It's about saying, I'm still figuring things out, but I believe in my ability to grow. True confidence doesn't shout. It doesn't need validation. It moves through the world with a grounded assurance, saying, I know who I am, and that's enough. Part 3, healing the inner critic. If you ever had that voice in your head that says, you are not good enough, you're going to mess this up, who do you think you are? You've met your inner critic, and we all have one. Some of us just let it drive the car for far too long. Your inner critic isn't trying to ruin your life, though sometimes it feels that way. It's actually a part of you that's afraid. It learned a long time ago that being careful and cautious and self-critical might protect you from pain, rejection, or embarrassment. It thinks it's keeping you safe. Maybe it comes from childhood moments when you were told you weren't enough, or from a teacher that made you feel small, or from a parent or peer who praised perfection but never progress. Over time, that critical voice moved inside your mind and made itself comfortable. It says things like, you'll never get it right. Why even try? Everyone's doing better than you. That voice isn't your enemy, it's just outdated. It's a scared, protective part of you that hasn't realized that you've grown. The next time your inner critic speaks up, pause and listen. Ask it, what are you trying to protect me from? Usually the answer is something like rejection or failure or humiliation. That part of you is just trying to keep you from the sting of disappointment. Now imagining responding to that voice with kindness, the way you'd speak to a younger version of yourself. You might say something like, I hear you. I know you're scared, but I've got this now. When you bring empathy into that dialogue, the critic softens. It begins to step aside, making room for a more supportive voice, your inner encourager. The goal isn't to erase self-doubt, it's to build a new relationship with it. Because self-doubt will always appear when you're doing something meaningful. It's a sign that you care, not that you're incapable. Your inner critic loses strength in the presence of truth. When it says you're not good enough, you can answer with the evidence, not just affirmations, but lived truth. You can remind yourself, I've handled challenges before. I've learned from my mistakes and I've grown. I am a work in progress, and that is perfectly human. Confidence and self-esteem don't mean that you'll never hear the critic again. They mean that you'll no longer believe everything it says. You start to recognize that your thoughts are just thoughts. They're not facts. And you have the power to choose which thoughts you give attention to. Over time, you'll notice that the critic quiets down when you stop trying to be perfect and start trying to be present. You'll stop needing to prove your worth and start remembering it. Healing your inner critic isn't a one-time event, it's a practice. Some days you'll hear that old voice again, louder than ever. But now you have the tools to respond differently. You take a breath, you remember you're not broken, and choose kindness over criticism, courage over fear. Part 4, Overcoming Comparison and External Validation. Let's talk about one of the sneakiest thieves of self-esteem, comparison. It's subtle, familiar, and almost invisible because we do it all the time. You scroll through social media and suddenly your mood dips. You see someone achieving something and you tell yourself that you're behind. Comparison tells you that you're not doing enough, not shining enough, not enough anything. But the more you compare, the further you drift from your true self. Because when your worth depends on how you measure up to others, you lose sight of your own journey. The truth is, you can't compare two people and ever get something fair. You're comparing someone's highlight reel to your behind-the-scenes footage, their best moment to your ordinary Tuesday, their public image to your private process, and it's never a fair match. When you start believing that you're falling short, it's easy to seek something that feels like balance, and that's when we turn to external validation. We start craving approval, a compliment or a like or a pat on the back. And for a moment, it feels good. It's like a warm little dose of sunshine. But that kind of validation doesn't last. It fades quickly, leaving you needing more of it to feel whole. When your self-worth depends on external approval, you hand over the keys to your emotional stability. You start performing instead of living. You tailor your choices, your words, and even your dreams to fit what others might want. And you drift further from your authentic self. But here's the thing, you can learn to validate yourself. You can learn to fill that space from within. It begins with awareness, noticing what you're seeking external validation in and gently giving it to yourself. Do you need reassurance, recognition, acceptance, love? Then you can start to offer it to yourself first. Tell yourself, I'm proud of how far I've come. Remind yourself, it's okay to take time. My journey doesn't have to look like anyone else's. It might feel awkward at first and even forced, but that's how healing often begins, with small, uncomfortable steps that eventually become second nature. One of the best antidotes to comparison is gratitude. When you start noticing what's already good in your life, what you've learned, what you've survived, what you're creating, the grip of comparison loosens. You might begin to see yourself not as in a competition, but sort of a unique unfolding story. And there's something powerful to remember. Nobody can live your life better than you. Your combination of strengths, experience, dreams, quirks, no one else has that exact same mix. You're not here to win a race, you're here to walk your path. So when that comparison voice shows up, you can meet it with a calm curiosity instead of self-criticism. You can say, oh, yep, there you are again. That old habit of measuring myself by someone else's yardstick. I see you, but today I'm measuring differently. Start measuring your growth, not your speed, your effort, not perfection, your presence, not performance. And that's when your inner world begins to stabilize. You stop chasing applause and start listening inward. Part 5, practicing daily habits that build self-worth. We've talked about what self-esteem really is and how confidence grows and how to quiet that harsh inner critic. But here's where it all starts to take root, in the small, consistent actions you practice every day. Because self-worth isn't built in the grand moments, it's built in the quiet, ordinary choices you make when no one's watching. It's built every time you keep a promise to yourself, every time you show up for your needs, every time you choose kindness over criticism. And let's start with one of the most powerful habits of all, self-awareness. Take a few minutes each day to check in with yourself, not about what you're doing, but about how you're feeling. Ask yourself simple questions like, what do I need right now? What am I proud of today? What's been weighing me down? This kind of gentle reflection builds emotional intelligence. It comes when you notice patterns and triggers and wins, and from that awareness comes growth. Another cornerstone habit is gratitude, but not in the superficial sense of listing 3 random things you're thankful for. Real gratitude digs deeper. It acknowledges your progress and the effort it took to get here. You can try ending each day by writing one sentence that begins with, I am proud of myself for, and then fill in the blank. It might be something big, like finishing a project, or something small, like choosing to rest when you needed it. Each note of gratitude becomes a reminder that you're already doing enough, that your life has value right now, not later when things are perfect. You didn't see my air quotes there, but perfect. Then there's self-talk, that ongoing inner dialogue that shapes your mindset more than you realize. Most of us are fluent in self-criticism, but clumsy in self-compassion. So practice speaking to yourself like you would to someone you love. When you make a mistake, say, it's okay, I'm learning. When you feel nervous about something, remind yourself, it's normal to feel this way, I've handled these things before, and I can handle this too. When you look into a mirror, instead of scanning for flaws, like a lot of us do, try finding one thing you genuinely appreciate. Maybe your smile, or your patience, or your creativity, or your perseverance. Small shifts in language create big shifts in self perception. Over time, these small moments add up to something powerful, a relationship with yourself that feels safe, supportive, and steady. Another daily habit that builds self worth is boundaries. We often think of boundaries as walls to keep people out, but in truth, they're bridges that protect connection. They allow you to interact with others without losing yourself. Setting boundaries might mean saying no to something that drains you, even if it disappoints someone else. It might mean taking time off without feeling guilty, or turning off your phone for an evening of rest. Each time you honor your boundaries, you send a powerful message. My time, my energy, and my peace matter. And let's not forget self-care. Though not the commercialized version of bubble baths and spa days, but those are nice, and I wouldn't say no to those. Real self-care is about maintenance, not escape. It's about nourishing your body with food that sustains you, moving in ways that feel good, getting enough sleep, creating small moments of stillness in your day. It's a way for you to recharge your batteries before they run dry, not after. Confidence and self-esteem grow through action. And one of the most transformative habits you can do is to build small, doable steps to set your goals. Set one tiny goal each week, something you can achieve without overwhelming yourself. Maybe it's reaching out to a friend, or finishing a task you've avoided, or trying something new. Each time you follow through, you give your brain evidence that you can rely on yourself. And that's the essence of self-confidence. So here's something to remember. You don't have to do all of this perfectly. These habits aren't meant to be another checklist to stress over. They're invitations to connect with yourself more deeply. Some days you'll forget, and some days you'll struggle, but it's okay. Like I keep saying, the goal isn't perfection, it's consistency. It's about choosing over and over to treat yourself with respect, patience, and care. Your self-worth isn't something you learn through achievement. It's something you reinforce through how you treat yourself every day. Over time, these daily practices sort of form a scaffolding of inner strength. You begin to move through life differently. You stand a little taller, speak a little clearer, and forgive yourself a little faster. And even without realizing it, you start to embody confidence, self-esteem, because it's not something you do, it's something you are. Part 6, turning setbacks into strength. Here's something most people never tell you about confidence and self-esteem. They're not proven moments of success. They're proven when things don't go your way. Anyone can feel confident when life is smooth, when doors are opening, when everything falls into place. But your real strength shows up when the plan unravels, when you stumble or fail or face rejection. That's when you discover what self-belief is made of. A setback doesn't mean you're not good enough. It doesn't erase your progress or define your worth. It's simply a moment of redirection, an invitation to pause, to learn, to grow stronger than before. But it takes practice to see it that way. Our first instinct after a failure is often shame. That sinking feeling that says, I messed up, so I must be a mess. But mistakes are not the same as identity. They're experiences, they're data points, they're lessons wrapped in discomfort. And every time you move through one, you're expanding your emotional resilience. Think about a time you overcame something hard. Maybe a job you didn't get, or a friendship ended, or a goal didn't go as planned. It hurt, didn't it? Maybe you doubted yourself for a while, but you're still here. You grew through it. And that growth, that quiet, steady recovery, is the foundation of resilience. Resilience isn't about pretending that everything's fine. It's about allowing yourself to feel disappointment and still choose to keep moving forward. It's the ability to say, this hurts, but it won't break me. With every challenge you survive, your self-esteem grows sturdier. You begin to trust yourself. And not because life is easy, but because you've seen yourself navigate difficulty and come through the other side. One of the most empowering things you can do after a setback is to reframe it. Instead of asking, oh, why did this happen to me? Try asking, what might this be teaching me? This small shift turns pain into perspective. It transforms failure from a verdict into a classroom. For example, maybe a job rejection wasn't a signal that you're not capable, but rather a nudge toward a path that fits you better. Maybe a relationship ending wasn't a punishment, but permission to rediscover yourself. The meaning you assign to your experiences shapes how you heal from them and how you grow. Here's the truth. Every setback leaves a gift if you're willing to look for it. And I know that sounds hokey. And, when you're in the grips of the pain from a relationship ending or rejection or whatever, it's hard to look for the gift. But sometimes it's patience. Sometimes it's clarity. And sometimes it's an appreciation of your own resilience. As you collect these lessons, you start to realize your worth was never tied to the outcomes in the first place. It's not about whether you win or lose. It's about how you show up for yourself. The next time you hit a rough patch, remember this. The same strength that got you through past storms still lives inside you. You've proven yourself again and again. You can adapt, recover, and rebuild. When you shift from I failed to I learned, everything changes. That's because your confidence deepens. Because now it's built on, not on perfection, but it's built on evidence. You've seen yourself get back up. You've seen your own courage in motion. And that is something no setback can ever take away. Part 7. Living with lasting confidence and self-esteem. So what does it really look like to live with genuine confidence and self-esteem? It's not about walking into every room feeling flawless and certain. It's not about silencing your doubt or pretending that you never feel small. True confidence doesn't announce itself. It just sort of radiates. It's in the way you make decisions without over-explaining yourself. It's about how you speak kindly to yourself after a mistake instead of replaying it a million times. It's about how you take up space without needing to prove anything. When self-esteem takes root, it changes the tone of your inner world. You stop needing validation to feel valuable. You stop chasing perfection as proof of worth. You begin to rest in your own enoughness, the sense of, I'm already complete, even as I grow. This doesn't mean you stop improving. Growth is natural. It's what we're here for. But now your growth comes from love, not lack. You start learning because it's joyful, not because you're trying to fix yourself. You take care of your body because it deserves care, not because you have to meet some sort of standard. Your boundaries are not out of fear, but out of self-respect. Living with self-esteem is a gentle unfolding. It shows up in your posture, in your tone, in your presence. It's about how you treat yourself when no one's watching. It's how you speak your truth without shrinking and listen to others without comparing. Some days your confidence will waver, and that is normal. You'll have moments where you feel uncertain or discouraged. But here's a gift of healthy self-esteem. Those moments won't destroy you anymore. You recognize them as passing clouds and not permanent truths. You breathe, you ground yourself, and you keep going. Confidence isn't a destination, it's a rhythm. You rise, stumble, learn, rise again. Each time you do, you reaffirm what's the most important truth of all. You are worthy, and not because of what you achieve, but because you are here. You're alive, you're growing, and you're showing up. Part 8. Surround yourself with mirrors of support. There's a truth about confidence and self-esteem that we don't talk about enough. You don't build them in isolation. The people around you, the ones you talk to, share space with, laugh with, lean on, they shape the way you see yourself. Your environment is like a set of mirrors. Some reflect your light back to you clearly, reminding you of your strength and worth, and others distort your reflection, making you question what's true. If you spend time with people who constantly criticize, belittle, or compete with you, it seeps into your inner dialogue. You start second guessing yourself. You replay conversations in your head, wondering if you said the wrong thing. You begin to absorb the tone of those voices until it starts sounding like your own. But when you spend time with people who genuinely care, who listen with respect, who celebrate your wins and hold spaces for your lows, something inside you begins to soften and you breathe easier and you start to believe that maybe you really are as capable and kind and resilient as they see you to be. This doesn't mean cutting everyone out or living in an echo chamber. The real connection includes honest feedback and growth. But there's a difference between constructive honesty and constant criticism. One helps you rise, the other wears you down. So start becoming intentional about who you give your energy to. Notice how you feel after spending time with someone. Lighter or heavier? Seen or invisible? Uplifted or depleted? Surround yourself with people who make you feel safe being your full self. Those are the mirrors that matter most. They reflect not just who you are, but who you're becoming. Seek out communities that value growth over perfection. People who aren't afraid to admit that they're still learning and who don't need to wear masks of constant strength. Friends who remind you of your light when you can't see it, who hand it back to you even when you forget. Sometimes the easiest way to remember your worth is through someone else's eyes, someone who sees your beauty in moments that you only see your flaws. We learn to see ourselves more clearly through the kindness and truth of others, and as your circle becomes more nurturing, your inner voice follows suit. Soon you find yourself speaking to you the same way they do, with encouragement, patience, and care. Confidence grows in community, and when you fill your life with mirrors of support, you're not just surrounded, you're seen. Part 9. Confidence through authenticity. Here's something that often surprises people. The harder you try to look confident, the less confident you actually feel. It's because real confidence doesn't come from performance, it comes from presence. It doesn't thrive in moments when you're acting or proving. It grows in that quiet, grounded space of being real. When you spend your energy trying to appear confident, perfect posture, rehearsed smiles, saying the right things, it becomes an act of control. You're trying to manage how others see you instead of simply showing up as yourself. And that performance, no matter how polished, always has a cost. It disconnects you from your own truth. Authenticity, on the other hand, is effortless. It's the moment you exhale and drop the need to impress. It's when you let yourself be seen as you really are, not flawless, but honest. Not always certain, but genuine. There's something magnetic about that kind of realness, isn't there? People can sense when someone is comfortable in their own skin. They might not know why, but they're drawn to it because authenticity gives permission. It reminds others that they can be safe to be their own selves as well. True confidence doesn't shout, it doesn't need to dominate or demand attention. And when you live from that place, your self-esteem deepens. You stop chasing approval and start aligning with your truth. You begin to choose people, work, experiences that really fit you and not the image of what you've been taught to project. And yes, authenticity takes courage. It means you're willing to be misunderstood. It means risking disapproval from those who only want a polished version of you. But the freedom it brings, the deep inner calm of not pretending anymore, is worth everything. That's what confidence looks like. Part 10. From self-criticism to self-compassion. As we're coming to the end of this episode, let's pause for a powerful reframe. Confidence isn't the absence of self-doubt, it's the ability to move forward with it. We all have the inner voice that second guesses, questions, and criticizes. That's just part of being human. But what separates people who grow and thrive, from those who stay stuck isn't that one group never doubts themselves, it's that they've learned to respond to those doubts with compassion instead of cruelty. Self-compassion is the bridge between low self-esteem and true confidence. It's what turns inner conflict into inner healing. And when it starts that simple shift, you start speaking to yourself in a way that you would speak to someone you love. Think about it. If a friend came to you and said, I messed up, I'm a failure, you wouldn't say, well, yeah, you are. You should have known better. No, you'd say, it's okay. You're human. You're learning. But when we make mistakes ourselves, that kindness disappears. We pile on guilt and shame and judgment. Somehow that the harshness will make us feel stronger, but it doesn't. It only makes us feel smaller. Self-compassion is not indulgence. It's not letting yourself off the hook, ignoring responsibility. It's choosing to learn with patience instead of punishment. It's the voice inside that says, yeah, I made a mistake, but I'm still worthy. I'm learning. I forgive myself. And in that moment, something powerful happens. You stop waiting to be fixed. You stop chasing worthiness as if it's something you have to earn. You start living who you are, imperfect and human and deserving of kindness and love and respect. Self-compassion transforms the way you relate to yourself. It softens your edges without weakening your strength. It teaches you that healing doesn't come from criticism, it comes from care. Because when you stop fighting yourself, your confidence has space to grow. You begin to trust that when you fall short, you can rise again. And not because you're flawless, but because you're resilient. So as you move forward, try this. Ask yourself, what would compassion say right now? And that question is the beginning of a lifelong friendship with yourself. Part 11, wrapping it up. So as you go about your week, remember this. You don't have to feel confident all the time. You don't have to love yourself unconditionally right now. Just start by treating yourself with the same patience you'd offer someone you care about. Self-esteem grows when you honor your worth. Confidence grows when you take small, brave steps. And both begin when you decide to stop being your own enemy and start being your own ally. Thank you for joining me today. I hope this episode reminds you that you are enough, and not just because you've achieved something or look a certain way or anything like that, but because you're you. And I also want to congratulate you for getting to the halfway point in this life coaching journey. Next week's episode is about developing emotional intelligence, and I hope you come back for it. Keep showing up, keep learning, keep being kind to yourself. That's where real confidence lives. Giatti Glow is powered by the Life Coach Store, which is owned by me, Barb Giatti. On my website, you can find all kinds of great resources for over 20 types of wellness coaches. Check out thelifecoach.store for more information.